Hey lovelies, this is Janelle, the relationship coach behind the successful invisible. And I'm here today with another episode of Ish I Saw on TikTok. Black women aren't struggling to find men, they're struggling to trust themselves. Let's be clear, the hardest part of dating as a black woman is not that there are no good men, air quotes. It's that we've been trained since we were little girls to doubt ourselves, to ignore the pit in our stomach, to override discomfort, to be nice, to give the benefit of the doubt until we're bleeding out emotionally. And when we get older and people gaslight us like just pick better, while the dating market is doing backflips, racism on the apps, weird city dynamics, men with audacity and no accountability, and everyone still expects black women to be endlessly accommodating. So no, you're not crazy. You're not too picky. You're not hard to love. You are just done abandoning yourself for the sake of being chosen, and that in itself is a glow up. If you want practical tools to date with clarity, like a self-trust checklist, red flag filters, and scripts for the most common misogynoir moments, 50-50 bait, gold digger accusations, body count questions, I keep all of that inside of my exclusive coaching community on Coffee. Link is in the description, and if you're ready to stop second guessing yourself and start moving like you trust your gut, join us now.
One of the biggest challenges that Black women face in finding love is not that there aren't enough good partners out there, is not that online dating has just become toxic. Those things are hard, but one of the biggest challenges that Black women face on their journey to finding love is learning to trust themselves in the process. I'm Dr. Adia, a licensed clinical psychologist, your favorite self-worth coach, and a couples therapist, and I want to break this down for you. So many women, and Black women in particular, have been socialized out of trusting themselves from a very young age. You may have felt uncomfortable with a relative or someone in your community, but you were told that you should trust them because we knew them, but maybe they violated your boundaries. You might have been convinced that it was good to date or be in a relationship with someone because they had a good resume and they had a good job and they seemed like a good guy, even though internally you knew that it wasn't right. And the truth is that if we are going to date and actually find love, we have to trust ourselves. When we trust ourselves, we recognize red flags and we go in the other way. When we trust ourselves, we trust what actually feels good for us, what actually feels safe for us, what actually lights us up, even if it doesn't make sense to everyone around us. And we trust when things don't feel good, even if that doesn't make sense. And in order to truly find love, you first have to trust.
Hey girl, my name is Anwar White. I'm a dating coach for Black and brown women, and I just wanted to highlight the most difficult cities to date in for Black and brown women. I've been a dating coach for 13 years, so I've helped thousands of women get their guy, but when I hear these three cities, I know it's going to take a little bit longer than your average. So in my program, most women will get their guys between months 3 and 6. For these cities, it'll take them maybe about 9 months, 12 months. So let's get into the nitty gritty. So coming in third place is LA. Los Angeles is super difficult for Black and brown women. A little bit easier for brown women, Latinas. But one of the things that you're going to need to know is they're still all about that Eurocentric look. There's a lot of racism, even though it's Cali. And the shade of it all is that the men of color in LA are not checking for you as much as they should, which makes dating much harder. Not to mention everything is spread out, so it's even harder to get to your person. So LA, third worst place to date for a Black or brown woman. Second place, Houston, H-Town. Why am I saying this? Not a lot of guys that are financially independent. And a lot of guys from Houston are actually coming from Atlanta and they weren't able to make it in Atlanta. And so they think that they're a 10 and they're overestimating themselves. The other thing about Houston that a lot of people don't talk about is there's a lack of what I call a love middle class. You either have bartenders or you have these like med students and hyper engineers, and there's nothing wrong with any of those like professions or anything like that, but med students will never have time for you. many engineers are socially awkward and bartenders have really bad schedules. So sometimes it's really difficult to just find your person. Okay, so Houston's number 2. In first place, and I think most of you know this, ATL. Absolutely. When a woman comes to me and says, hey, I live in Atlanta, I know this is going to take 9 months to 12 months to actually help her get her guy. And I'm going to explain why. ATL has a huge gender ratio issue. Yeah. So when it comes to like singles that are ready to be in a relationship, the ratio is 6-1, 6 women of color to 1 man of color. So what that means is that there's a level of thirst and desperation that's happening in that market. And the men know that. So they're flakier. They're treating the women much more horribly than they should. And they have no incentive to settle down, which makes ATL super, super hard to date in. Some of the cities that I love that are really easy for my clients to get their guy in, New York, Chicago, and DMV. Let me know your experiences.
So I just went to brunch with a couple of my homegirls after church, and there were 5 of us. 4 of us were black, 1 was white. And the 4 of us black girls were single, and the white girl is in a happy, healthy, thriving relationship. Her partner is Hispanic, and they have been dating for a few months now, but like the normal progression: met, hit it off, went on a few dates, got in a relationship, long distance right now, meeting parents soon. Like the normal. Okay, no gray, no limbo, no nothing like that. And then me and all my black homegirls are talking about our relationship status, and all of us are single, for sure. All of us are like actively dating, some more active than others, but nonetheless single. But then we're kind of telling the stories of like the guys that we're talking to or have gone on recent dates with, and like these struggle stories are insane. And for reference, we're all in between 27 and 29, maybe 30. Why is this the commonality with me and all my black girls? Like faithfully. Not just this group of black girls, but like so many. My closest friends, my black girlies that I've met on assignments, out, like all my black girlies that exclusively date black men are on a struggle bus. And a part of me is like, just get off the bus, date other races, start dating any other race. And there is something in my stomach that immediately just gets sick at that thought. I want black love. I once read this article, and it was saying how black women need to start dating outside of their race because it's not working. Like, it broke down all these statistics and all these things. And I did a poll on my Instagram story. Like, would you rather date down or date down within your race? So date down with a black man. So, you know, let go of some of your non-negotiables, a man that makes less than you, a man that like, whatever your non-negotiables are, date down from those, or date white. And a majority of black women said they would rather date down. And I'm like, what is the chokehold? I'm asking myself, what is the chokehold? Like, I myself would rather date down than date outside of my race. And it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I wish I had more to say than that. I am very frustrated with dating at this point, and I get the girlies that are like, decenter men and focus on your relationship with God and focus on your friendships and da 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 da. And that's what my 20s has been all about. My friends, traveling, catching a fight, doing whatever I want to do, spending money willy-nilly. Like, that's what I do. Like, y'all not trying to come home to the same person every day? Y'all not trying to fold his laundry? Y'all not trying to cook dinner? Y'all not trying to go to Pilates after you make your kids lunch? Oh, we got different goals.
There are three primary reasons that Black women struggle in relationships. And based on my experience as an award-winning life and relationship coach for Black women and women of color, I've been able to identify these three reasons as the top challenges for Black women who are looking for healthy love and partnership. The first reason is childhood trauma. Childhood trauma shows up in general and social ways as well as direct ways. In a general sense, Black women and women of color experience trauma directly connected to their self-identity and how they view themselves, just by living in a society that affirms a different standard of beauty that you don't get to fit into. So the white idea and ideal of beauty, the white supremacist mentality that we've all opted into because we are members of this society that says that your hair is not good enough, your complexion is not good enough, your body type is not good enough, play a part in the way that you identify yourself and impact your psyche. And so that is trauma that's happening to you in an indirect way and in a general way, just in your own living and existence. Then, of course, we have the direct trauma that often comes from the adults in your life who are raising you. Often it's mom or dad. You may have a mom wound, you may have a dad wound. With mom wounds, you generally internalize and feel badly about yourself. It shows up as a lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence. And with a dad wound, it generally shows up in the partners that you choose, in the access that you give men to you, to your space, to your overall emotional environment. Second of these top three reasons that Black women struggle in relationships is picking small-minded partners. You are beautiful and brilliant and smart and successful and accomplished. You have big dreams and big goals and big visions for your life, even if you have not achieved any of them yet. But unfortunately, you pick men who do not have the capacity emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, or in any other way to make space for you and to create room for you. And what that does is it causes you to shrink. And you spend so much of your time focused on trying to elevate the man in your life so that you can then elevate, that you have to come down to his level, and you often get stuck there. In order to healthily operate in your divine feminine energy, you have to deal with those first two issues. You need to heal your trauma, and you need to be able to attract and pick better partners. But now I want to hear from you. Tell me if any of these challenges show up in your dating life. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below.
Hi, how are you?
You got 50-50.
So what do you do?
See, that's the problem with Black women. All y'all care about is money. A bunch of gold diggers.
Okay, let's talk about something else. Do you have children?
I have 4 kids and I don't want no more. My 3 baby mamas ain't and always asking me for money. I can't understand why they always coming to me with their handout. That's why I pay child support for.
Oh my gosh. And with 4 kids, you must be paying a lot.
$50 damn a month. A nigga drive a forklift for 12 hours a day but can't even afford to roll up no more after they take the money out of my check. I can't even cop the new J's. I hate gold diggers.
You hate gold diggers, but you have no gold. Got it.
You females need to be fit, feminine, and submissive.
Okay. I'm actually a nutritionist, so I also can appreciate the importance of being fit and healthy.
Oh, so you a PhD. You got kids?
No children, but I do have fur babies and I'm a cat mom.
See, that's your problem. You females gonna die alone. Grand Rising Queen.
Hi. Grand Rising. So what do you do for a living?
I'm a podcaster and a SoundCloud rapper. My new shit fire, listen. I don't love them, I just them. Then I leave. I'ma on your mama and your auntie and your granny too.
Interesting. I love podcasts and listen to a lot of real estate and finance ones. What kind of topics do you talk about?
Killing Whitey and how Black women let welfare take Black men out the home.
They should have never given you niggas microphones.
A reality check I got once I was back in the dating scene was that I was not going to get everything that I wanted in a man that was on my list. Once I started dating, I realized that if he was fine, he was stupid. If he was smart, he was not my type. If he was smart and fine, he was a liar. It was almost like I needed to mix all of these different guys into one man so I could get everything that I wanted. But then I read a book, and basically the book was talking about that. It said you're not going to get everything that you want on your list. It's just not going to happen. And trying to look for perfection means that you are a narcissist. It talked about how we're attracted to people in 3 ways: physically, mentally, emotionally. So you need to pick your top 2. So basically, if you want them to be cute and you want them to be smart, then they probably don't have any emotional empathy. And if they have empathy and they're smart, then they might not be your usual type. You have to pick. One of the hardest pills I had to swallow once I started dating was that I realized my type was not meant for me. Me and my type, we don't work. We just don't work. I would pick the same exact man, just in a different body. Since we are attracted to people in 3 different ways: physical, mental, emotional, I started to focus on the mental and emotional. This is when I started to date people way outside of my race that I never would have thought of dating before. And I actually enjoyed it. So I say that to say, start dating outside of your type. Sometimes your type is just not meant for you. Now, we are not about to be out here dating Shrek and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. We're not going to do that. But I am saying just give other people outside of your type a chance. I wanted tall, dark, handsome. I ended up with tall, light-skinned, handsome. It worked. When I got back into the dating scene, I realized that the clothes I picked was very dependent on the type of guy that I would attract. If I wanted to go for the trendy Instagram model type of look, I attracted a certain type of guy. If I wanted to go for a more classic look, I attracted a different type of guy. This was when I really needed to get real with myself because, I was your typical, oh, I want him to be hood, but to work in corporate and be smart and be an entrepreneur and all this stuff. Like, everybody wants one, sis, and they are very far and few in between. And sometimes your type is just not for you. Like, you are not meant to be with who you think your type is. All in all, I had to remember that I was putting myself first and I wanted a certain caliber of man, and that meant I needed to go with a more classic look. Does not mean that I do not add trendy pieces, but I am not walking around looking like an Instagram model. I think a lot of women, as they're dating, they'll realize, like I did, that you don't actually know what you want until you start dating it. When I got back into the dating scene, the hardest pill for me to swallow was that my looks really do matter. We like to think, oh, you should like me for who I am. But no, your looks actually do matter. And what I learned is that men are very visual creatures. They notice what you look like first, and then they tap into who you are, your personality. And I think that this is a hard pill for women to swallow because we are wired to look more into the other details of men rather than just their surface level looks. However, it is true. When you are single and you are dating, when you go out, stop going out wearing sweatpants and looking a mess. Put yourself together because you never know who you might run into while you're running errands. And essentially that meant putting myself first, going back to the gym, consistently eating healthy, getting a facial every month, getting my nails done every 2 weeks, like putting myself first and making sure that I'm giving myself the princess treatment before I expect a man to do it. The more successful you are as a woman, the harder it will be for you to date. I did not quite understand that statement until I got back into the dating scene. I started to meet guys and I realized that once I started to talk about my profession, my achievements, the things that I was doing, I realized that one of 3 things would happen. They would try to tap into my network to see how it could benefit them and get them higher up to where they wanted to go. Or 2, they would get docile in a sense of like feeling like they're not good enough. Or 3, they were like, how can I use this to my benefit? AKA the dusties that just want some money. It got to the point where I did not want to exchange any social media. I did not want to talk about my profession. And then I started to realize why people would say, do not lead with your accomplishments. One, a lot of men just don't even care. And then the ones that really do care, sometimes has an underlying reasoning. Now, this is not all men, it's just some men. And then when you think about the other side of it, yes, of course, like a lot of successful women want someone that is at least on their level or above them. And the higher up that you get with the men that are on your level and up, the more quote-unquote competition that it is. It wasn't until I learned about femininity and hypergamy that things started to change. And that's really why I started this TikTok, because women don't realize just how much power femininity and hypergamy actually has, especially if you know how to tap into that dark feminine energy as well. Leading with your accomplishments becomes a thing of the past, and you tap into that feminine receiving energy where you're just going out, having a good time, looking good, smelling good, having a great personality, and you're just enjoying yourself. And I quickly realized that when I tapped out of that and just tapped into my natural receiving feminine energy, that is what made men want to give even more. And even better, I started to attract the guys that were natural providers. I did not have to explain hypergamy to them. They just got it, they loved it, and they loved that I was in my feminine.
All right, this is what you're gonna say if someone asks you about your body count, whether you slept with one person or 1,000 people. The question is crass, and because intimacy is a double standard between men and women, it's rooted in misogyny. Obviously, you can reveal whatever you want about yourself to your partner or potential partner, but if the question makes you uncomfortable and you wanna avoid it, then this is what I would do. I'm gonna tell you a little story of the last time a man asked me how many people I'd been with. I was in Miami. I was at Mr. Chow on South Beach. We were having dinner, and maybe we had one too many lychee martinis, but at one point of the conversation, he asked me, he's like, yeah, so how many people I'd slept with? And I looked at him, and I was like, that is such an inappropriate question, and I really want you to think about what you're asking me right now. And he was stunned, and I said, I'm gonna excuse myself, and I'm gonna go to the ladies' room. So I got up, I went to the ladies' room, and I was in there for like a couple minutes because I really wanted him to like think. That is just such a crass question to ask a woman, and I wanted him to feel it. I go back to the dinner table, and he is like apologizing profusely. He's like, I'm so sorry, I realized that wasn't appropriate. You know, it's none of my business, and it is immature. And I said, thanks for apologizing, and I understand. That's the nice way. If I were the sprinkle ladies, since you want to value my body count, let me value your bank account. And if you're going to ask me about how many people I've been with, I'm going to ask you how much money do you have in the bank? Since we want to be crass and we want to place value on the wrong things. I just feel like you're not obligated to answer questions that make you feel uncomfortable. Obviously, if you want to reveal anything about yourself, I don't care if you slept with one person or 1,000 people, you can reveal whatever you want. But I think it should be on your time. I think you should feel comfortable. And if you feel uncomfortable with that question, that's how I would get out of it. I would just say, this is inappropriate, and I want you to think about what you're really asking me right now. And then give him some time to think about it.
Hey girl, my name is Anwar White. I'm a dating coach for Black and brown women, and obviously there's been a lot of controversy and discussion around what you should settle for and what you shouldn't settle for. And I just wanted to come on here because I know that I have a lot of women out there that are looking for specific things and they have a specific list, and I want to offer to you what that list looks like when you actually put it into practice. Yeah, so many of my clients, many of the women that I talk to want a guy with a grad degree who's 6 feet or taller and is making 6 figures. And so I ran the data and the numbers for you so that you understand what that looks like, and per city. So what that looks like is that if you're dealing with all guys, 13% of guys have grad degrees, 15% of guys are 6 feet and taller, and 9% of guys make 6 figures or more, right? If you're just focused on Black men, then only 8% of Black men have grad degrees, 17% are 6 feet and taller, and only 2% make 6 figures or more. Now, please understand, this is what they call the talented 10th, or the cream of the crop, and so normally, if you're a Black woman, roughly a third of the guys will be checking for you, but these guys, it's only going to be about 10%. So what does that mean? It means that if you are checking for all of these guys, all men, then 1 out of roughly 5,500 will be a match. If it's just Black guys, it's 1 out of basically 33,000. So I wanted to break this down by city because I had a video earlier that discussed actually what it looked like to date and what the worst cities to date in were. And I picked Atlanta, Houston, and LA. Now, if you actually, and I want to, if you look down here on this side, this is the actual Black man numbers per city, and based on the statistics, how many men are going to be aligned with that list. And you'll see in Atlanta, there are going to be only 3 guys that are going to be aligned to that list for you. Houston, roughly 7 guys you're looking for. LA, 5 guys. And DC specific, 4 men, right? That have all of these things that are going to be checking for you. Now, if you widen out, and this is what I do with my clients, and we focus on the DMV area, you 5x your chance in the DC area. But please understand, if you open up your actual net, your dating net, girl, then you can 10 to 30x your chances of finding your guy. So please understand, if you need help to navigate what your list should be, and based on deeper emotional needs versus what you want, book a call with me so I can help you navigate this. I wish you well.
Let's jump into my favorite part of all of the content I post on YouTube, and that's just my thoughts, where I get to kind of express what I feel about whatever we have read or gone over. So let's get into it. Y'all know how I like to do with these videos. I like to take 5 salient points from the videos that we just watched and bring like the things that I think are important from a coaching perspective to you, so you can think about, self-reflect, and maybe move forward with more intentionality in dating. So point number 1, self-trust is the core dating skill, and it gets trained out of us, honestly. A lot of Black women weren't taught to honor discomfort, especially when adults said, be nice, that's your uncle, don't make it a big deal. That conditioning can follow you into dating as over-explaining, red flags, giving more than one chance, or choosing the resume over your own nervous system. Research consistently links childhood trauma to insecure attachment patterns and relationship difficulties later, meaning your I don't feel safe here signals deserve respect, not debate. An emphasis I want to put on this as a coach is to trust yourself faster than you trust a man's potential. The instant you feel discomfort in the gut is the instant you need to move away. Remember, the gut is known as the second brain, and that's just not fancy or cute wording. It's true. There is a connection with your intuition and with different parts of your body that you do have in your gut that it would take longer, or it does take longer for you to process mentally, right? Trust your gut. That self-trust will save your life. Point number 2, stop letting a good resume outrank emotional safety. Good on paper doesn't predict good partnership, as much as people think. What tends to matter long-term is whether someone is warm, trustworthy, emotionally stable, and responsive, because those traits show up in repair, consistency, and care. In studies of mate preferences, warmth and trustworthiness predicts attraction and is linked to relationship outcomes like marital satisfaction. And broader relationship research shows perceived partner responsiveness supports attachment security, aka feeling safe and secure in the relationship. So a coaching emphasis I want to put on this point is to don't date credentials, date character. And I know this is a particularly challenging point for the wonderful, wonderful ladies that I am privileged to coach with, because I'm working with really highly educated, professional Black women who have accomplished a lot in their career. They, on a rational level, are thinking, hey, matching with a man who has the same thing as me is probably my best route. Now, in a lot of ways, that makes sense, right? Especially from a financial perspective. However, that in and of itself It is important. I'm not going to dismiss that. But that in and of itself should not be your fallback when other things are not seeming right or not seeming aligned. Because a good resume does not outrank emotional safety. Point number 3. Dating is also a geography problem. Some markets are simply harder. So understand that your environment can amplify the struggle, even if you're doing everything right. Metro areas can have sex ratio differences, more women than men, and subgroup differences like college enrollment patterns, which changes competition, commitment incentives, and the overall vibe. For example, census-based reporting shows women outnumber men in a place like Metro Atlanta. And local demographic databases show female leaning ratios in Atlanta context. Coaching emphasis I'd like to make here. Don't personalize a market problem. Let me say that again. Don't personalize a market problem. Consider expanding radius, dating corridors, NYC, Chicago, DMV, etc., or travel-based dating strategies. This is especially true for my friends, acquaintances, and lovely ladies I've worked with in the Atlanta metro and in the DMV. They often find it extremely challenging to date because of the ratios in the market. And then also some of the subcultures that are very prevalent in a place like, say, Atlanta, where like the DL community is really seen as a challenge for women dating, as well as men who are very insincere or just want to be players, once again, because of the ratios. So just be mindful of that. And also maybe that will factor into where you are open to moving to. You shouldn't move for a man. That's not what I'm saying. But you may be interested in moving to a market that has better ratios in terms of gender dynamics if you are in the stage of life where you are seeking partnership. Just something to help you in the landscape overall. Point number 4. Online dating isn't toxic in the abstract. Racial bias is a real variable. A big part of why dating apps can feel brutal for Black women is that race can heavily shape who gets messaged, replied to, and algorithmically surfaced. Public-facing scholarship and research commentary on dating platforms points to discrimination affecting Black daters, including Black women, in online dating outcomes. A coaching emphasis here is don't let app behavior rewrite your self-worth. Use apps strategically, filters, faster vetting, fewer pen pals, and keep in-person pipelines alive. I would say this is especially true for Black women because accomplished Black women especially, but Black women as a collective, face more hate, harm, and discrimination than just about any other woman, especially from the men of our own community. Misogynoir is a very real experience, and it can be humiliating and dehumanizing from work I've done and stories I've heard from my clients to be out here on these apps. You need to really take stock of the apps that are helpful and those that are harmful. For apps that you don't feel are really producing what you want, get off those apps and really invest your time and your funds in being in the places and in the spaces where you would like to meet a man, right? I'm big on date at your tax bracket. So if you're a woman that makes a good bit of money, you need to be dating men who can enjoy activities that you can comfortably afford, right? So that includes getting off apps, doing more in-person things, going places where men of a certain caliber, education level, and culture are going to circulate. That is going to be some apps, but it's going to more so be travel-based as well as just activities-based upon a certain amount of, culture. So keep that in mind. Point number 5, the Black love chokehold is real, but don't let it turn into self-abandonment. Wanting Black love is valid, but choosing it should not require you to date down on safety, effort, and stability. Let me rephrase that. Wanting Black love is valid, but choosing it should not require you to date down on safety, effort, and stability, or tolerate misogynoir, as I just spoke about earlier. Gold digger accusations, body count interrogation, you'll die alone rhetoric. So basically, red pill ideology and speaking points aimed at Black women, specifically from Black men. That's a lot of misogynoir. When women internalize scarcity, they often stay longer in misaligned situations and ignore the traits that actually predict relationship health, like emotional stability and agreeableness, which are associated with higher relationship satisfaction in longitudinal work. A coaching emphasis I'd like to really point out here is same race is a preference, emotional safety is a requirement. You're allowed to keep your standards and keep your desire for Black love without bargaining away your peace. If I want you to really think about how you're going to go about these and reflect on if any of these points resonated with what you're currently doing. And I know one of the biggest challenges for Black women is we are probably some of the most race loyal individuals on the dating market, that we're loyal people. That is not a bad thing. However, you can't allow that to turn into your handicap. If you want a partner who has certain characteristics, you need to really focus on those characteristics. And once again, align yourself in places, spaces, and with groups who are going to be able to produce and reflect back to you men of a certain caliber. So nothing wrong with wanting to date a Black man, but don't sacrifice yourself, your safety, your sanity, your hairline, and everything, and your credit score in order to be with a Black man who is not on your level. And then here's another part. You will meet men from all walks of life, but it's very possible you meet a man who's doing what you're doing and economically you're matched, but he is jealous of you and he's not there to help you. He is the ops. You need to be careful of that too. So these are just some things to keep in mind when you are out here dating, and understand that Black women, we're not struggling to find men. You're struggling with trusting ourselves. And I'm in this group too, and we are struggling with some challenges that are currently presented in the dating market from different aspects, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comments if you've been challenged in dating and what you're looking for, and if where you currently live, the apps you use, etc., have presented a challenge. So here's the takeaway. You don't need to become colder, meaner, or less feminine to date successfully. You need to become clearer about what feels safe, clearer about what's aligned, clearer about what your body has been trying to tell you the whole time. Because when you trust yourself, you stop entertaining confusion. You stop auditioning for men who are inconsistent. You stop letting a good resume talk you out of a bad gut feeling. And you definitely stop blaming yourself for market dynamics you did not create. Whether that's a tough city, biased apps, or men who move like scarcity makes them entitled. If you want support while you build that level of self-trust in real time, my exclusive coaching community on Coffee has the tools, checklists, vetting questions, boundary scripts, and practical coaching resources designed specifically for Black women dating with intention. Link is in the description box below. Come join us whenever you're ready.